The Dakos salad with mizithra is just a fancy term for Greek salad or Greek bruschetta. That's right. The Greeks won't like us calling it that, but I promise you that's what it is. The cheese we're making is like a Greek ricotta, and that's the zimitra, or mizithra. And so we're using a base here of tofu. We have a little bit of white miso and some cashews. Now the difference between this Greek ricotta and Italian ricotta is that this is much more tangy and lemony, and we actually even have lime juice in here because it's a lot more sour than a traditional Italian ricotta. For some cheesy flavor, of course, we have a little bit of nutritional yeast and then some salt. And then we have a little bit of plain yogurt here. We're just gonna pop in for some tang. And if you've already made the el fukara, which is of course another recipe in this class, then you can use some of the el fukara juice. That's right. This is a fermented juice that came off the el fukara, so I kept that. And this is a great way to flavor and to make some custom cheeses. So then you're just gonna whiz this up and make your ricotta. So the consistency you want is like ricotta. If you prefer your ricotta a little chunkier, that's fine. But I do recommend putting it in the refrigerator for about 4 to 6 hours to really let these flavors meld. Even overnight will be fantastic. Now, this is an optional ingredient of sumac. Think of sumac as a dry acid. It is an herb, it is an aromatic. We just put a little bit in there for a little bit of color. And this is a chef's best friend. If you ever want to add a little punch of acid, you just put a little bit of sumac in anything. I know certain chefs around the world that put this on every dish as it leaves the kitchen. So now it's really just about bringing our dish all together. As I mentioned, the base of our bruschetta or bruschetta is some bread. Now, this is, listen to this. So this is any day-old bread. In the recipe, you just pop it in the oven to even make it more stale because we want this to be crisp. Here in Greece, they use something called rusks, and they are thicker and they're sold in every grocery store throughout Greece. But they're very difficult to get outside of the country. So we have this as a little bit of a hack that you can utilize any bread that you have in your area. Just check or use a whole wheat or a brown bread. That's more typical of what the rusk would be like. Here in Greece, they run it underwater because these rusks are so hard. They're like a rock, you'll crack a tooth. But here, they're thinner, so I'm not gonna run it underwater, but I am gonna make a little bit of a delicious tomato concoction here. Because remember, think of this as a bruschetta, however you want to pronounce it. So I just have my tomato diced up, and then you can pop in a little bit of salt, and I also want to put in there a little bit of that sumac. So that's really nice to be able to highlight our cheese that we made. Put just a teeny bit of salt in there. If you really love garlic, you can put that in there, but I'm not going to do that. So we're just marinating our tomatoes and making them fabulous and delicious. Now, think of a bruschetta. All you're going to be doing is now putting this onto your bread. So we're going to be using a lot of the tomatoes. Remember, in our cheese, it was very acid, very lemony. And so now we have a lot of sweetness going on here with the tomatoes. There's also a little bit of acid in here, but mostly the sweetness. And then we're adding more oil. We do have some oil in the cheese, but we're going to be putting a little bit more oil on here as well. Some people do add a little bit of vinegar. You can use balsamic or any vinegar you like. Now we're going to put our cheese on. And then it's your choice. Here, typically it's with a little bit of onion. We have some purple onion here. I have some diced olives. These are the Kalamata olives. You can use any ones you like. I've seen some students use green onion. Use what you have in your local area. You could even use an olive tapenade. And then for some more flavor, some more acid, as well as salt, some capers. So again, there's no right or wrong. It's whatever you like to create in your own kitchen. And then oftentimes here, if you cannot get fresh, that's fine, but here I have some gorgeous little fresh basil leaves. And this adds some nice color, as well as a slightly different flavor profile. These come out of our garden here, so I do encourage you to use fresh aromatics. They're wonderful. You could use, of course, thyme, rosemary, parsley, whatever you like. Even oregano is great. And then we're just gonna plate these up. So about one per person. Now these are larger. You can absolutely make smaller bits and bites for a bar, or breakfast bar, brunch, what have you, for a cocktail party if you'd like. You can also come back and just put a teeny wee bit more olive oil on the top. You know how Greek folks are, there's never a bad time to put a little more olive oil. There you go. So here is your Dakos salad. We have our rusk, the tomatoes with the mazzitra cheese, and all of the delicious olives and capers going on. So don't be afraid to make this. I promise you, it will be a little daunting at first, but it's so delicious, refreshing, and this is a salad with cheese.